Hi, everyone. We're here with Courtney and Markeisha again for another podcast episode. And this time we're going to not give you tips. Well, there might be some tips in there. There probably will be tips in there because we can't help it. But we're just going to get a little bit more personal here today and talk about all, not all things, because we'll probably have a part two, three, four, five, six, seven on how we felt and how we handled our kids when they got diagnosed with their disabilities. Hey,
Yeah.
Courtney.
Hey. Yeah, this is an important topic and one that I think some of us deal with very privately and maybe even a little bit lonely. Like we don't necessarily, I don't remember talking about it with my daughter as much as I had more support with my son, and the differences in those two journeys is pretty much night and day. And
Right.
I can tell you, the second one was a lot better. It was a lot less emotionally draining, and I didn't feel as alone. So I definitely want that for our listeners more than what I experienced originally with my daughter.
Right. Now tell us for any new listeners, you have three kids
Yes.
and their ages are, so tell us about your babies.
Okay. Hannah's 18, Lily's 16, and my youngest Evan, he's 10. So that was, yeah, there's a little bit of a gap there at the end, but he's our caboose.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and my oldest Hannah, I actually found out that there was some complications during my 8th month of pregnancy.
Okay.
Um, they didn't really know what was going on, but there were some markers there. Um, I just remember feeling devastated. I just think that there's what you think your motherhood journey and being pregnant is going to look like. And I just felt like in that moment, it was like derailed, and I did not have a really clear path to getting back to being okay. Like I felt really unsure, like what her birth was going to look like. And it was not in the what to expect when expecting book.
That book needs to be revised.
It was traumatizing. Her, her birth ended with an emergency C-section after 35 hours of labor, 3 hours of pushing. It was,
Oh,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. It was not good. My friends were like, I can't believe you had two more kids. I was like, I'm a believer that things can get better. They can go better next time.
I know you probably won't want to hear this, but I all three of my labors and my caboose was adopted, so I do have four kids, but I birthed three of them. Did not even equal 4 8 12 6 12 out 4 hours a piece. So you reached that with one, with Hannah.
Yeah. I went through three shift changes, something like that, three or four shift changes of nurses. And the last nurse was like, I'm
Ooh,
not leaving until this baby's here. Like she refused to leave me. And I just always remember her kindness, because when I went to have an emergency C-section, she was supposed to be getting off. She's like, no, I'm not giving this mom a brand new nurse coming into
right.
shift, and she's already been through like so much
Oh
in the
my goodness.
last 34
Maybe we
hours.
need to do a whole birth stories one. I am traumatized by 35 hours with for one child. I don't know. I,
Yeah, we were in the hospital for almost a week, and she was on the little NICU on the Billy Rubin lights, and um, so yeah, it was just a lot happening. And then so she wasn't born. They thought she was going to be born with Down syndrome. My daughter doesn't have Down syndrome, and so really we were sent home with, oh, I guess we were wrong. She just kind of has a larger head,
Mhm.
and everything's good. So that's how I was sent home. So like
Okay.
go home, and then things aren't going the way they should really, and she's not developing her milestones. And so I kept saying, what's going on? She's not putting her feet on the ground. She
Right.
can't hold her bottle. She's having trouble sucking on her bottle. Like, what? Oh, you're just a first time mom. You just need to
Mm,
relax. I heard that a lot.
okay.
Just needed to relax. And every kid develops on a different time frame, and really minimizing my concerns. So she was about a year old, just after her first birthday. I finally was like, something isn't right. And not in the sense that something's wrong with my child, but just that she wasn't where other kids her age were. And I just didn't know how to help her. And I was feeling really alone in that. And like, hey, how do I help her? She's not crawling. She's not sitting up. Really anything that was on the chart. She wasn't at any of them. So finally I got a referral to the Children's Hospital, Seattle Children's Hospital. And finally got the ball rolling. But actually who helped me finally, I forgot about this part, was Head Start. Does anybody, Head Start?
Yeah. I
was working at Head Start, and my mom brought Hannah in for a lunch break because, of course, as a new mom, I always wanted to snuggle her as much as possible.
Right.
My mom brought her in, and it was actually when they left. Her name was Rosa. Rosa said, "Oh, what early intervention services is your daughter getting, for her delays?" And I burst into tears, and I was like, 0, because other than me, you were the only person who really believed me, like something's going on. And so Rosa got to work. She got me all set up, and the came over, and they're like, "Oh, nothing's gonna happen. You have to have so many deviations from the norm, so many points, and it's really hard at her age to get all the points." And then when the lady was done, she's like, "Well, in your case, actually, she has enough points." So, and that was the first introduction to being like points, deviation from the norm, like all these words I had never heard of in my life.
That wasn't in the what to expect when you're expecting book.
No, that chapter was also missing.
That chapter is missing.
Wasn't there.
Wow. I want to go back to something that you said, which was, where was your pediatrician now?
Oh yeah, my mom. So I don't know if I would call it a mistake. Uninformed. I didn't have a pediatrician or an OBG. I went to a family practice, and technically they can oversee your pregnancy. Mm-hmm. I do regret that because she couldn't even do my emergency C-section when the time came. She wasn't licensed, to do that or had privileges. So we had to call in whoever was on call to come and rescue me. And then I think I was just, again, it really shows like the overwhelm, just stayed with the same lady because I at least knew her or whatever. And that's when I was like, after Rosa told me like, "No, girl, like you should be getting these services," then I went and found a pediatrician and got started with that. And that's when the ball started rolling with early intervention and all of that. And I know we talked about, really wanting to support families with that because it was completely overwhelming. My first baby, a new mom, all the normal postpartum and all that. But on top of that, I was trying to navigate all these systems of care that I'd never heard of before. And nobody was really coaching my husband and I. No one was really saying, this is, here in Arizona, I live in a different state now. Like, we have a whole system here. And if they had that in Washington, nobody in my circle was telling me about it. So here they have a whole system of like, you would go home and you would have like a case manager helping you. I didn't have that. I was just like, whatever Courtney could find.
Wow.
I got it.
That's the same as Jen, which we'll have her on the podcast too. Her son's 18 too. And just the services that we have now, she just navigated it her own way.
Yeah. You can do it. It's just a lot harder. I mean, when you have a parent coach or somebody who's gone before you and really knows the ins and outs of qualifying for things, what steps to take. And we were going to get into that. Like, my son's diagnosis was night and day compared to everything I went through with my daughter because I knew the systems of care in my state now because of her and going through it. But 2, my friends and my support system and the network I have now, when he got his diagnosis, it was more like confirmation of something that I just needed a name for it to open the doors of services. I needed diagnosis, but I kind of already knew what the diagnosis was. I just needed it confirmed so that I could open the doors of services for him. But I never felt hopeless, or it was more like, okay, now I have this is what I need to do next. And it's not that his road is perfect, but I know lots of different people who have autism, and I know on Instagram, I'm following different therapists that are showing a different way to think about it and how to support them. And so I was just filled with hope of I can be the kind of mom he needs, and I can help him get access to these services. Versus my daughter, I literally felt like I was failing her. It makes me cry because I felt like I was trying my hardest. I was like, we spent so much money. I call her my $1 million baby because we spent so much money having her. And so I was medical bills. No one helped me say, hey, you could apply for grants, or you could do this. So I was buried under medical debt without anybody helping me understand that there was grants and services out there for that. Just lonely, overwhelmed, and just feeling like every night when I went to bed, I just distinctly remember, Craig would hold me almost every night, and I would just cry because it was like another day of struggle, another day of no answers, And so if that's you, like, I'm here for you. Like, we're here for you because it's a real feeling. And until you get grounded with some services and some support and help, that's the feeling that you have, because there's something out there that could be helping your kid, but you don't really know what it is, but you just in your heart, that there's like, if they could get speech therapy, not that it would fix them, but it would like support them with this while we help the parent and the child navigate that. But I do want to share, like, when Hannah started PT, I remember telling her physical therapist, I am so excited we're here. Hannah's going to be walking by Christmas. And I knew it. And okay, Hannah's 18. Hannah does not walk independently. So Hannah walking by Christmas? Okay. And I remember months and months later, after Christmas had passed, I finally said to her physical therapist, why didn't you tell me that I was wrong? That was not going to happen. And she was like, in my experience, you have to come to your own realization, because if I tell you, you're going to say, you just don't know my kid. You don't believe in my kid. Like, this is what they can do. But physical therapy has helped Hannah in numerous ways. But my mindset at that time was, okay, we're going to get this and it's going to make everything better. And I think a lot of families can relate to this kind of, I call it a misconception, because we want so badly for our child to be able to go into the world and have the skills they need and be accepted, right? This deep desire for them to not struggle.
Yeah.
And that's why our hope is like kind of hung on this therapy, or this is going to really help them in it well. But I think if I could give, we said no tips, but here we are. A mindset tip would be open to the process and notice. One thing that Hannah's really taught me is to look at all the little things within the bigger goal that she has hit, and the things she can do today that she couldn't do back then. I'm so grateful Hannah can sit up independently. She scoots around the house. I've done it to try it out. It's a full body workout. This full body.
I only imagine.
Yeah, scooting with your bottom and using your hands to kind of balance you. And she gets from A to B like that. And then she learned to crawl at 8. She crawled in her classroom. Her teacher knew what that meant to me. She called me up. She was crying. I was crying. Hannah crawled over to the mat. She just did it. We worked on it for years. And then one day Hannah's like, I'm going to crawl today. She just crawled across the room.
What would make them, let me show them what I can do today.
Yeah. So I call that all the things that our kids are learning. And it just there is no timeline for them to, demonstrate the ability sometimes. And so, yeah, we worked on balancing, tall kneeling, all these things in PT for years. And then one day she put it all together. She put the pieces together and she crawled, and she still crawls when she feels like it. But her main method is scooting, but when she's out of her wheelchair. But it was like, all of that was just lonely. All of that, navigating doctor's appointments, diagnoses, because Hannah has a main diagnosis, but then she had a lot of other diagnoses. And then this past year, we actually found out she has a rare genetic disorder. And so it was kind of like re-diagnosis day for me this past year. And it shook me. I was like, oh, I thought I got this, but hearing that and knowing that it was going to cause her more struggles was really, really hard on me emotionally.
Right. Yeah. We want parents out there to know that it is hard. And I know there's a lot of, chatter in the, on the internets.
Yep.
About, fixing and I don't feel like when you feel like hopeless or things like that, it's not that you feel like that about your child, but you just think of the struggles that they have. You want to protect them. The mom's instinct is to protect, and you want these skills, right? To be like, I can't protect them if they don't have these, these skills.
Yeah.
So when someone comes to you and is like, hey, your child's diagnosed and they need all these things, and you're like, yes, give me all the things. And I like that you use the example of like, yeah, she's gonna walk before Christmas, because you're still like, well, she's gonna need those things to play on the playground, to talk to their friends and all those things, but that they let you come into your own reality of what her disability is. And I think all parents need to know that it's okay to go through those different stages, and it doesn't necessarily mean, or doesn't mean that you don't love your kid and that you want to change who they were and all those, different narratives that are out there. I think that, you just want what's best for them. Yeah. And you start to think, and we know now the reality of some of the things that Evans experienced and Josiah is that there's some people that just aren't nice out there.
Right.
And I still get choked up when I think about what happened to him last year, because I was like, even though we try to teach him the skill set that he needs to stand up to somebody who's bullying him, he still doesn't do that. And I just, it's just, oh man, if I don't want him to be in that situation anymore. So it does make me like, if I could better help him understand that, the concept of when someone's being mean, I would, because I don't want him to get beat up in the bathroom. I don't want him to be picked on. Now I'm getting choked up. I don't.
Yeah. It's all these things that are going through every parent's mind when they're getting this diagnosis, is that kind of overwhelm of all the multiple things that need to be put in place, and also finding balance in that. That's something that took me a little longer than I would have liked, to find the balance between all the things that are available and what is actually humanly possible to do in a given week. And knowing that I could pause therapy or say, this is a lot for us right now. We're going to focus on communication. Not that PT is not important, but working full time, trying to get her to appointments, managing all of that, plus doctor's appointments. It was just like exhausting. And so, my husband had to really help me go.
Husband.
Yeah, they had to come in and be like,
and you have a husband, and the other kids came.
Yep. Trying to manage all of it. And so I want parents to know that it's okay to have the recommendations and have that available, and really take your time in figuring out, okay, what can our family do right now in this season, doesn't mean
Right.
this is what's going to be there forever, but in this season, right, when Lily came pretty close right after Hannah, they're 2 years, 2 weeks apart, so it was very close. What can I do in this season? You
Right.
know, I'm going to need to be, I needed therapists that were welcoming of Lily. You know, I had to let some go that really wanted me and Hannah. And I was like, well, I'm home with my other baby too. So we need to incorporate her. So I always joke that Lily got early intervention, and that's why she's such a super reader,
Yeah.
is she got
Right.
all these early interventions alongside her sister. And she learned to sign, and she was signing before she talked, because that's what was being modeled around her. And so I needed in-home services so that I could accommodate nap schedule, right, of her sister, and to have taking the two of them out with the wheelchair and a toddler and newborn was really challenging. And so sometimes I had to say no, because I was like, there's no way I can do a 1 o'clock therapy appointment in this season of my life right now with this other baby. So that's okay too.
It is okay. And we have, and I know you, when you're working with families too, and me also, they are doing all the things, and they're missing the nap time, and then everyone's stressed out, the siblings crying, and you're trying to do the therapy, and you're trying to get here, and that just doesn't work out for anyone.
Yeah,
Like,
long term, you know,
yeah,
you can do anything short term, but really think about that. A year long of this therapy session, this therapy time, is that going to work for me? And sometimes, and I've said this to families, and they've said, you're a wonderful therapist, but you're just not a good fit for our kid.
yeah,
That's okay.
that is okay.
My therapy time doesn't have to work for every family, and I might not be the right therapist for every child, and that's okay. And the nicest thing that a mom ever did to me was just call me and said, I've seen you the last 6 weeks. You've been really trying, but my son is not warming up to you. And I wanted to let you know personally that it wasn't personal. It's just, he's not warming up to you. And I don't want to, you know, essentially waste this therapy time, this money we're investing in this service, if it's not the right fit. But I wanted to let you know it wasn't personal, and that really helped me out, because obviously I take things personally, you know. But her calling me and letting me know that really helped me know, like, this was just the best decision for her family, and that it really had nothing to do with me. It just wasn't the right fit for him. And so we parted ways, and they went on to try to find a different speech therapist that was maybe a better fit for him. That happens too.
Yeah, it does happen. We went through a few here when Josiah
Are you
started.
ready to talk about,
Yeah.
I know you had like a certain amount of intervention that they wanted your son to go to. And I know that's something that, certain kind of therapy intervention, and it can be like 20 to 40 hours a week. Are you willing to talk about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you navigate that when that was like what, a recommendation, something he qualified for?
Right. And it was different because he was in foster care when he got diagnosed. So when those things come, they're like, I don't want to say court mandated, but we have to, it was just a whole hoops to jump through, because we did not have parental rights when he moved in. He came in foster care. Seems so long ago. Because now he's just like a birth stem. But yeah, it was a lot of hoops as a foster parent to get the things that he needed, because I didn't have the parental rights. So things would have to go through a recommendation. Like, I would be concerned, take it to the pediatrician had to get, orders from them, take it to his social worker. The social worker would have to take it to the judge. And the judge getting approved, because he was essentially a ward of the state. And so they had made all the decisions for him. We worked on that, getting that changed right away, because we already knew that something else was going on. He wasn't speaking, lots of things. He was lining up stuff. That's really what we noticed. But me and Dre are both special education teachers. So sometimes we're like, are we seeing this? or we just not, or is it just because we are in the field that we sometimes are more sensitive to some
To
things?
noticing it. Yeah.
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 So yeah, they gave us the list of all the things, and we looked, and we had the three older kids, and we were like, I don't even understand how that would even work out in a
In real
working
life. Like,
family. We
how
live
would
in
you go to all
California,
those?
so we are both working at the time. Expensive out here in California. So we're like, well, we both work, and then the kids have sports afterwards, and then like hours of therapy in the house. We're not even home. We did do early intervention because we had to for foster care system. Once we officially adopted, then we opted out of that because it wasn't working, and it was a lot on him too. Like the transition of him, and we don't know the trauma because he wasn't speaking, and he still doesn't. But it's there, in your body when you've experienced things. It's still in your
Mhm.
body,
Mhm.
even if he's not able to express it. And it was hard to take him to the therapy that many times, a week. And he would cry and he would have meltdowns. And I'm a pretty patient person. That's what people, I'm not saying that about myself. That's what people say. But I was even like, this isn't working for either one. I'm super frustrated, which makes me less patient with him. He's already frustrated because he's, time to stop, having fun and maybe some more natural play, which is what we chose to work on here, like more natural situations than just therapy situations for him. And I was like, this is miserable. He's miserable. I'm miserable. It was far. That's another thing parents we want you to understand, that we understand, is that therapies are not around the corner. Like his OT was one way and his speech therapy was another way. And then you have to fit in, because I know you guys all have been on wait list, and you have to fit in where the appointment times are, right? So it'll be
Yep.
like in the middle of California. The traffic out here will be enough to make you want to be like, forget it. I want to stay home. Like we look at things and be like, we want to go out here, but oh yeah, not that time. We
Not
don't want
this
to hop
time.
on the freeway at that time. So there is
Yeah. So
that
it's more than
whole,
just the
yeah,
therapy time. It's the drive time. It's
drive
the
time.
so
What am I doing with the
potentially,
siblings time?
yeah, family time after, like you said, like in the evening. So like if for instance, just from our house to Children's Hospital, when we're talking about, it's like in good time, it's 45 minutes. If there's any sort of traffic, not good time of day, we're talking, hour and a half. And so then, you're there, and then however long the appointment, are they on time? It can like, that alone can take up your whole afternoon or whatever. And so it's balancing that. And that's why I'm really passionate about helping families navigate the school system
Yeah,
and balancing what therapies can they get there and what supports can they get there,
yeah,
and then which ones fit best for home. But I think for a lot of people experiencing like a new diagnosis, there's this, like I was talking about, like this fear of like messing it up, or if I say no to this.
yes,
I always kind of felt like, if I say no, could I hurt her chances? Like literally, we were working on any sort of communication, sign language, communication device, anything that she could communicate with us. We were working on crawling, walking, balancing, like big
yeah,
skills that you would want your child to be able to have. So I was always so worried, like if I didn't do this,
yes,
would I feel guilty about not giving her that time and space to go work on that? But like you said, there was, Craig's always they nickname him at school Easy Breezy Burnett, because he's always calm, cool, and collected. He's my, you know, opposite. Definitely here that's the case. And so he had to sit me down and be like, "You are stressed out. I was running home programs. So we would go to therapy. They write the home programs.
Right.
I was doing those till bedtime.
Mhm.
Then I was prepping for the next day. I just got chills remembering like what kind of I call it nonsense, not like making in like light of it, but
Right.
it's not sustainable. That's the whole point I'm trying to make of trying to balance doing the home program, taking them to therapy, going to school, and then not discounting family time, fun. And that's what Craig was trying to help me. He's like, I feel like you're missing out on just having fun with her because you got her schedule so full of all the things.
Right.
And so, I mean, he had to work with me to get me to roll back a little bit to a more sustainable level because I had our schedule so packed. So I'm always grateful for his words of wisdom and I call it his bravery, because when I can be really stubborn. So if I got my mind set on something, I call it, he has to be, he's brave enough to say, okay, babe, I just want you to think, I just wonder, like, what about, and then he'll bravely like give his. And so I of course pushed back at first, but I'm so glad he did, because it wasn't sustainable, and she still has made wonderful progress and done these things without me staying up till midnight, doing all the things. Because I was like prepping visuals. I was because I wouldn't do anything that I needed to do because I was running home program and taking care of her. So then when she would go to bed, then I would actually do like laundry, just anything I needed to do. So it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. And I totally agree. We looked at it after he turned 3, maybe 3.5, and we're like, and we're not going to do this anymore. There's just we just can't. And I understand. I think that because we had the different skill set, since we were both in, I was in early childhood special education, so I was like, I think I got this. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna work it out on the baseball field while we're at practice, doing things just more play based. And just, I like that you keep saying family time. That's super important to me. And now that, and you have teenagers too, it really goes. I know people say like it goes by so fast.
It does.
But having a 19-year-old and a 7-year-old, like the things that I even did with Taylor, all the things I stressed out about, and you just don't have to have a child with a disability to stress out about what's going on. Like, she was our first, and I was like mapping out her school, like she's going to go to this preschool, then to this kindergarten, then to this, just, and now it just, I'd be like, sure, have a popsicle. It's going to be okay. Because one day you're going to, go off and live your own life. And we're not going to be having these little moments of, and I know all the parents out there, the little moments that you have, like maybe just you and a kid, if you have more than one, have like a certain look or a giggle, or all those little things are just as important in building connection and relationship and neurons. If get into the brain science of learning new skills, those things are just as important in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is, and I'm really excited to hear and be around a lot of professionals, at least I didn't hear it back then, that are really helping parents know, like, you can do this at home. And for a long time, I really felt like, okay, this is what they're doing here because they're the professional. And I don't even know if I should try to do that at home because I'm mom and I don't want to mess up like what they're doing. So I really am excited to see and hear on Instagram and all these different therapists saying, this is what you can do at home. And it's better to try, like, you're not going to mess up, as far as like, if you're consistently trying and growing with it, that's what your kid needs, is that carryover at home and learning how to communicate, like you said, in real life situations, on the go situations. And so I'm really excited about, I feel like it's a movement of really helping parents feel confident and capable, because you already feel insecure enough just becoming a parent and trying to like do all the things. So I really love hearing people really being that voice and encouraging parents like, you can do this at home and you can play games this way. And I know I could have used those words of wisdom, back then. So we just wanted to share with you like a little bit about our lives and what we've gone through that led us here wanting to do a podcast. Really is about connecting with families and offering that perspective of where we are now versus like being in the trenches of the moment of a new diagnosis and finding your footing and figuring out your way with that. And it does take time, but it will come together. And the fact that any parent out there is making daily efforts to be the best parent, that's what your kid needs. You're making the doctor's appointments, you're trying, you're listening, and you're connecting and with your child. That's being a good mom. That's being a good parent. That's something that I really want to get across to them, that you are enough right now with what you're doing. And I know there's a lot of pressures and just feeling like I'm not doing enough, but you are. Like,
absolutely.
Right in this moment, you are. So
absolutely. That's good, Courtney. That is good stuff. I guess I'm going to stick to the tips because I get so emotional thinking about it. Josiah's 7.5 because he's like, my birthday's coming in October.
They're always counting down.
8, so let me say 7.5. But like you said, like just remembering when he was 2.5 when he came, and he had so many things just from coming from foster care and then having the different diagnoses. I mean, he's been through a lot of things in his in his 7 years. In the 7 years. So when we see him like run, for example, it's just, we were like, remember when like he wouldn't even he had to use OT. He had OT he didn't like recognize that he had like its thumb and like his whole arm. So he would just run with one arm like this whole, it wasn't that it was immobile. He just like they had to teach him how to use it.
It's like crossing midline for a lot of kids. Like
so he would just
use this hand to cross over.
And his thumb, so that would keep, so even feeding himself, because he wouldn't use I don't know. Can you see my thumb? Because I need to do it because I'm a preschool teacher, so I need to show you.
Yeah, we need the visual.
Thumb, Courtney. This is your thumb, everybody. Like his thumb, like he just wouldn't, and they had to like like all the cool things that they do.
Yeah, engage it.
Like, now he's scooping ice cream like a old pro, and we're like, wow, all those, like you said, all those little things that led up to,
and just taking that gratitude really, and recognizing, I think that's helpful too. Like, okay, he might still have things he's working on, but let's not forget, like, he can scoop ice cream. He can run and engage both arms. My daughter can crawl across the floor. She can get off the couch without falling on her head. Like, these are things that she has because of therapy and carry over at home that she didn't have before. And so when you can recognize those moments and really give thanks and appreciate that, it just makes them sweeter when the next kind of breakthrough happens and they gain a new skill or learn, how to use something that's helpful for them. That just brings you so much joy.
I know. So we want you guys to know that we have these titles and these what are these letters up under our names and things like that. However, we have been where a lot of you guys are, and that's where our heart is to let you know that some days we cry, some days we laugh. And we have been through a lot of the same things, and we just want you to feel like you are able to take care of your child and you guys are able to have your family culture, without, I don't know, I don't want to say outside influences, but that you're making the decisions that
Yeah.
you'll be able to make, that you're empowered to make the decisions that's best for your family. And that might be look different than somebody else's, but that you're
Right.
able to have the information that you need to make the decisions that's going to have you guys, live
Feel
as a family.
confident in it. Like I think that's the main thing is you are going to have a lot of different professionals or whatever giving you input. But at the end of the day, what's most important is the parents take that information back and are able to say, that's really great information, but here's what we feel is best for our kid in this season at this time. Doesn't mean you're not going to take some of their advice down the road for other things, but just realizing, because my husband's always said this, each professional is focused on their, like OT's mostly focused on OT, and neurology is giving you information on neurology. But what was happening was they weren't looking at, like, I call it all the other subjects, but like, if you give me this assignment and come in every 3 months, and then this doctor's telling me to come in, that leaves me with 13 appointments, you know what I mean? And so having to say, like, is that necessary? Because I feel like we're pretty stable right now. Could we push that out to a year? And if anything changes, I'll just give you a call. Right. When I started checking out that sentence, my life changed, because they're like, oh yeah, I think that's fine. We're good. She's stable. And so that's one of the ways I decreased my pressure on me of all these things, is because my husband was saying, like, well, she's pretty good here. Like, we're not having consistent issues. So why are we going in every 3 to 6 months? Like, could we do a yearly appointment? And so that's how I started talking to the doctors and really letting my voice be like, this is a lot on us. Like, what can we do here? But I want other parents to know that sooner than later, like, ask questions and really know, like, is this 100% necessary right now? Because I also have 7 other specialists in my daughter's case, like, that I'm working with and that are giving it, labs and MRIs and scans and stuff. And so I had to help them understand what was on my plate and what was on her plate too, of appointment after appointment, So yeah, don't want to keep going on because I could talk about it forever, but it's so important. That's one of our missions with the IEP Live and some of the other things we got coming down the pike here is helping families feel supported and helping them see big picture, all the different systems of care and support, and helping them navigate that while filling in the driver's seat and knowing that they can pass on some of the things.
Pass on some of the things. It's okay. And like Courtney keeps saying, and I love, is that it's in the season. So you can always pick it back up, or, even if you feel like you made a mistake, we're all going to make, but let's just put it out there. We're parents, we're going to make mistakes. Your kids are going to talk about you in therapy. One day, one of them, and especially if you have more than one. So one of my 4 kids is going to be like, there's something I did not like when she made me those Pinterest pancakes. And I'm going to feel very offended when they do that. But I'm going to have to say, you know what?
Good.
I did not know that you didn't like my Pinterest pancakes. And you know what? I won't make them for you anymore. I'll ask you next time. All you can do is make a different decision, right? You can't just wallow in it, because we're going to make mistakes as parents. There are no books. There's tons of books, but there's not a book that's written about your family and your child. So that means that there's going to be mistakes, but as long as you can know that there's other options. Like, I chose the wrong therapist, you can choose another one. I chose the wrong school. You can research and find, whatever that
you can adjust. You can adjust. Yeah. And I think that's empowering too. Like, just knowing that you can say, this isn't working. I'm going to evaluate that and I'm going to adjust going forward. But I like that. Just saying, you can say, I didn't know that, but here's what we're going to do going forward. That's valuable to our kids to know too. That's why I always admit, we'll have a coaching one for parent. Then when I went through the parent coaching with you, but that is so helpful just to learn to say, I made a mistake and model that for our kids. it really helps them know that it's safe to make some mistakes, which they are going to make mistakes just like we do. We're all human.
Right.
But modeling that is empowering for our kids to know that mom made a mistake and she made adjustments and now it's better.
Yeah.
I can make a mistake. I can make adjustments and it will be okay too. That's something I want my kids to know that's possible for them.
Absolutely. For sure. Well, if you guys are seeing this, sorry I look a mess with my hoodie on. I'm getting it over the weather there. And Courtney has a new mic.
Yeah, I got a new mic because it sounded. I listened to my own podcast and I was like, our tone are not matching up here. It sounded like I was yelling at our listeners. So I'm really excited about my mic. I think it's helping a lot. I think this will be better.
So Courtney's all the way right, and I don't have a mic issue, but I have I don't know.
You're just getting over something, you know,
hair issue today. But you know what? That's real life.
Yeah, she showed up even when she wasn't feeling like gorgeous. She still showed up and was like, "We're going to get this podcast done for our listeners this week, no matter what."
Right, no matter what. So on that note, guys, we're going to end this podcast, and we'll be back with you in
2 weeks. Yeah, every 2 weeks. We'll see you.
Have a good day.